Good afternoon, and welcome to the April 21st TTAC meeting. It's 3 p.m. Call this meeting to order. How do you want to take roll? Oh.
All right. David.
Here.
Chris.
Present. Here.
Kevin. Jeremy.
Here.
Jenny. Here. Greg. I know Greg is online. I know he's over the button.
Here.
Thank you, Greg. Lauren. Ellie.
Here.
Hang on. Let me get caught up. All right. Dick.
Here.
I know Jeff is out. He has a proxy. Ken.
Yes.
James. As a proxy of Dan. Rex. Dan Rispens. Drenda, I know, is out today. She's excused. Jeff.
Here.
Chief Petty. Quint. Katie.
Present, thank you.
Emma. And Harry. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay, thanks, Ty. Any comment from the public, either on the agenda or general public comments?
Yes. Yes. Hello, I'm Dr. Gregory Thomas. I'm with the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. I am your local Greater Helena representative. I'm also vice chair of the governance committee. Based on the recent open house that was held at the library, considering some of the feedback that I've received from some of the local citizens who attended, I wanted to come and bring everybody up to date on where we are with Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. First, I'd just like to thank those of you, including the mayor, who came and offered in-person testimony as we pushed to get HB 848 through. Unfortunately, it did not succeed. However, that's more of a loss for our state government than it is for Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, because our work is going to continue and we are going to raise the money that we need to continue moving forward. We are presently in phase 1 of the Corridor ID program for the restarting of the long distance route that leads from Chicago to Seattle, passing through southern Montana, passing through several locations, which includes stopping here in Helena at our existing train station. We are still working with the intent of having those trains rolling within the next 5 to 6 years. Lewis and Clark County has chosen not to participate. However, the city of Helena has in fact chosen to participate as a government partner for Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. We are now at a stage where we no longer need an endorsement from Lewis and Clark County. As I mentioned earlier, the stats that go with it, the approval to restart our rail line, which was provided by the Federal Rail Administration in late 2024, makes us the only long distance passenger rail line that was approved for restart last year, when over 16 lines around the country had submitted to that program. We have accomplished more in the past 4 years than what has taken other passenger rail groups around the country over 20 years to accomplish. And we're nowhere near stopping. We are continuing to move forward. So just thank you all for your support. And, if you have any questions moving forward, I am your local rep, so feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment online? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to our agenda items. TAC members provide updates on MPO or related projects. I'll start, I guess. City Helena, not quite an MPO project because it's being done with city funds, but the mini malfunction roundabout design is continuing. It's roughly 50%. They're still tweaking a couple things before there's a bigger review. We have recently received from our project manager with the Federal Railroad Administration, the RCE, Railroad Crossing Elimination Program, our kind of kickoff materials. We're reviewing all those docs as we speak, and hopefully get them concurrence tomorrow by their deadline. And that would be to design or to do preliminary design and environmental documents for the grade separation at Montana and the railroad, and then also tie the malfunction junction design for a 2-lane roundabout to make those changes there at that intersection. And then we just have our typical pavement preservation in the city right now as far as bigger projects. So I'll turn it over to Lewis Clark County.
Thanks, Chairman. Jenny Chambers, Lewis Clark County. Just a couple updates to share with you guys today. The county did submit a congressional spending request grant application through Senator Sheehy's office about a week and a half ago for trying to get design money to really design Country Club Road. That would be Country Club all the way to Williams intersection to the fort entrance all the way to about the Birdseye Railroad crossing area. So to try to address that weird Y intersection there, widen the road, maybe allow some non-motorized traffic with a bike trail and things like that. So we anticipate the design would be anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million. So we need money to even to start the design of that project. So we know what we're looking at for construction costs to try to get additional funding in the future. So that was submitted. The Custer Henderson roundabout is still moving forward with the design of that roundabout at the fairgrounds. We have been coordinating with MDT and City of Helena on that project in the different phases of the design. And it was designated now as a system impact requirement from MDT based upon that urban route. So what that means is going to slow down our review process a little bit to lump in MDT into some of those conversations. So our contract was going to get wrapped up, but we can do an amendment if needed. We just have to get that ARPA money spent by 2026. So my goal is to have it done by first part of 25 and possibly be able to build some stuff in. So it means that we're just going to have a more thorough review on it through MDT and MDT so that if we do get funding for construction, we're just going to be ahead of the curve a little bit there to move forward. So it's a positive in the tail end of the time constraints. Other than that, we're like City of Helena, went out to bid with a lot of our maintenance activities, chip sealing, paint sealing, asphalt overlays. The first part of May, we are going to be doing Highway 435 up in the Augusta Country for MBT, that Great Falls District. So that's what I have today, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? City of East Helena.
I don't really have anything to update. The city is still working with FHWA on contracting for the grant for Valley in Montana. Other than that, just maintenance work.
Thanks. Any questions for East Helena? MDT.
Thank you. No major project updates, but I'll just go through my list here. The Custer Avenues Signals project is almost complete. They're just finalizing landscaping work. Helena North, the I-15 project is going to begin in July. Prospect Avenue lighting is going to begin in mid-August. And there's another active project. It's a Great Falls district project, but there is a piece in Helena on Canyon Ferry Road, put up some new signing and luminaire poles and flashing arrows at the Canyon Ferry and Wiley Drive. All covered.
Thanks. Any questions from you? Okay. Old business update scope and fee from RPA to develop free transportation plans. I take it away.
Yes, thank you again. Just to maybe take a step back, Mr. Chair, for those online. One of the major projects again for the MPO is to hire a consultant to build 3 transportation plans. Our public participation plan that will guide how we will collaborate, inform with the public. Our long range transportation plan that look at the transportation needs for the MPO throughout the next 20 years. Then our comprehensive safety action plan, which will help to eliminate any injuries or deaths on our roadway by any multimodal transportation. For this group, I know we left off last that the scope and fee was pretty well done. And to move forward to scheduling with the TPCC meeting for approval. Again, for those online, that is the higher board within the MPO. Before we were ready to submit it, members of the TTAC had some questions in regards to is the MPO choosing the right choosing the right design, or like the model, like how you model transportation needs and traffic within the MPO. After some communications and some collaborations, it was determined that the members of the TTAC would like to use MPT's model for the Greater Helena MPO. While that is one is it does help with a standardization amongst all MPOs in Montana to help with planning for our roadways and our streets, and keeps everything congruent within the MPO. In addition, MPT's model has a staff behind it that is dedicated to continue to build these models. They can drill down to local needs, and probably one of the best things is that they are free to the MPO. So probably not the right term free, but I mean, definitely a huge resource for us. So we decided that they'd like to propose to the TTAC that we use MPT's model as our base model, their model design. So I know that's confusing at best. Maybe take a pause and see if there's any questions or concerns about the MPO going. Anything online? And please, while we come back, let me know. But just from a price perspective, you'll see within our UPWP, again, we have allocated $420,000 towards building of these plans, broken out for each plan. Our highest scoring vendor, RP Associates, their new fee for this project is $435,000. So the price has come down with this change again to MPT's model. And as this being a 2-year or at least a 1.5 project. We do have the fund within our fiscal year 26 to cover those additional costs, as well as we have the fund within our reserve bucket. So from a price standpoint, we are in line with the MPO schools. Questions? Concerns?
So in terms of, say, basic population assumptions, for the 20-year period, what's the basis of those? I didn't see it in their outline, what assumptions they were using for things like that.
I did, Mr. Chair, if I can answer your question correctly, I think that's gonna be one of the things that we would identify as we go throughout our fact finding needs with us.
Okay,
To look at where we see the growth, where we see potential coming. So that information will be fleshed out, like our term, as we move forward with this process. Mr. Chair, let me know if I missed.
No, I mean, typically they run a model. It tells us where the vehicle trips, are going and coming from. And then they apply a growth rate to different areas of the city. And then that's how the projection for the growth is for different city and county and the MPO.
because like Helena, for example, would be different from, say, Billings.
Yes.
And in Helena, the growth could be significant government growth, whereas Billings would probably have more business growth.
That's true. They'll look at the, and Chris can probably tell me the right terms to use, but they'll look at the right factors.
Oh, okay.
That make up our community as a whole, and that's how they apply those across the field. Just like if Jeff decided to build a new terminal and bring in a hub for someplace, they would look at that and how that would affect the growth throughout the MPO and the greater area.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Anything online? I think also the one thing to point out is that in talking with our PA, our timeline has not been impacted, I should say, whether it's delayed. Our PA was built into their timeline that it would start about mid-May on the timeline here. So what I'm trying to say is that we are still in line with moving forward. So here notice proceed really is around mid-May, end of May. So I think from a timeline and budget, we are in line with the MPOs. That being said, I would just like approval to schedule the TPCC meeting in the next 2 to 3 weeks to move this forward. Is there any objections or concerns?
Motion.
So I guess the motion would be is schedule a TPCC meeting to propose or for their consideration to approve the scope of the fee to move forward with the transportation plans.
No, I made that motion.
Chairman clarifies that obligation, the notice to proceed.
Yes.
Okay. I second it with that amendment.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hopefully you can figure out all the.
Passed. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Second item is Transportation Alternatives Fund Subcommittee updates. All right.
So Mr. Chair, just with this update, so again, the MPOs, the TTACs desire would be to have our Transportation Alternative Fund process approved by the TPCC along with our scope and fee for our transportation plans. Again, that TPCC meeting has not been scheduled. So part of that agenda will be to talk about RTA funding program. The last meeting at the TTAC, we wanted to look at making a few additions to the form. Those additions have been made. That really is just to add who's a sponsoring entity to go along with the proposal, being that, for example, Ty Weingartner, I can't put in for an application for TA funding because I want a new bike path from my house to trails. And I have to be in partnership with an entity within the MPO. So this sponsoring entity would just allow to choose, this is the city of Helena, this is Clark County, city of East Helena, so on and so forth. The second part of this form would be to attach a letter. I'm sorry, this isn't the best. There's a place here to attach a letter of support from the sponsor. So again, if I was going to go for a project, I would need the city of Helena documentation that yes, I approve for this entity or this group to move forward with an application to get TA funds. So those are the two major additions we wanted to perform. Those happen.
Any questions on this?
Not on the form necessarily, but your memorandum, is the schedule that you had attached in the meeting materials, it seems like it's not the right schedule anymore.
This schedule, hang on, sorry. This schedule here, that is NDT schedule.
Okay.
That is not, so what the TTAC had requested at the last meeting is that once applications are live, we would go to 75 days before a period closes, at which point we will score applications and get back in track with MDT. Probably in late August or September, we'll be back in line with MDT's time.
So when do we think we're gonna, today we're gonna finalize the form
Just your approval to move forward.
and then we're just gonna get it posted and start advertising?
Go to the PCC, right?
Yeah, go to TPCC,
In a
first.
couple of weeks at that meeting. Okay. Thank you.
The only other question I wanted to bring up to the TTAC that was brought to my attention earlier was who should score these requests. And I think the concern about this point is identifying members that wouldn't have a perceived conflict of interest in scoring TA applications. That's something maybe we don't have to decide today, as we have some time to figure this out, but something I want to bring up to this group on identifying how to score applications. I'm not sure how you like to perceive that.
On that? Suggestions?
We should just, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, probably should just be this group and those that don't have a conflict, we just have to set that particular application and score it out.
You want?
So the potential conflict, like if it was application, then they would be excluded from the scoring of that application. City of Helena Smith's application. Conflict's a little tricky, is there? What would you guys perceive as a conflict? Because the entities that are only eligible to submit are the eligible majority of the entities that sit around this table, so. If a nonprofit wants to work with us, like Berkeley Pearland Trust, and want the county to sponsor it, then is that a county application, even though it's not necessarily we're supporting the project, but not necessarily the applicant on the project.
I can understand kind of the conflict of interest, but I would hope that the group here, you know, is professional enough to be able to score the applications on the merits of the application and not just because they're in one entity or the other. I do think that if the city, you know, or the county or one of their cities, town were to put in an application itself, not sponsor an application, and that might rise up to that level. But I think if the majority of the applications are just sponsors, I would hope that we'd be able to come and score the applications on the merit of the application and not just because they're in one of our jurisdictions. I know that's not a great answer. You're right. We have one of us are part of So it
Oh,
would be
so,
2/3,
yeah.
it'd be 2/3, so that's where I think we could maybe just get by with the larger enough group to score um, the final applications. That'd be my.
Or you do like an RFQ and you designate 4 or 5 people that might not have the membership, but then they kind of have the cone of silence during the time that they're reviewing the applications, and then they present the findings to the larger group. Just for the scoring that, you know. Because like, you know, Dick isn't necessarily affiliated with any of the 3
Yeah.
groups that are submitting. MDT would not be. Jeff may or may not be unless he attempts to partner on an application for the airport to City Hall or something.
So I
So,
mean, we could do a smaller subcommittee like that to kind of score out the top whatever before they come.
yeah.
I'm in.
And maybe we ask the policy coordinating committee if they have a preference.
I think that'll be the easiest one, come the next PCC meeting to see what their preference is, and they might just say one way or the other, and that'll just be a easier way to go about it.
Yeah.
Good,
Perfect, thank you.
great. Any other discussion on this topic? Okay. Hearing none. New business functional classification.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is for an awareness for the TTAC. I don't know, Mr. Chair, may I ask you to provide a quick overview of what is a functional classification?
Sure.
I mean, that's make sure I'm on the chair.
So functional class just classifies roads. They can be local roads, collectors, arterials. There's urban routes between that are a little bit different functional class, but not really. But anyways, so on this review, MDT has asked the local entities to review the functional class if they have any comments, suggestions, or revisions to the current classification system. And that could be just that a roadway has fallen out of favor with folks because of, development reasons. It's now not acting like a collector. It's maybe acting like more like a local road, but there's another road that has arisen. So that's kind of what this whole review is. And then to get the local entities input is what MDT is requesting. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Jerry, to that point, yes, so this project hasn't officially kicked off with MPT, our very own Jeff will be the one who leading this. The kickoff meeting is scheduled here probably the next couple of weeks or month. It's not yet to be determined. But in meetings with MPOs, a concern was brought up that the proposed 2-week turnaround time to provide comments back to MDT might not be sufficient enough for MPOs to gather their thoughts. So MDT has opened up this, comment period for MPOs now, and will continue until their questioning closes. So what I'm asking the TTAC is, how would you like to proceed with gathering suggestions by MDT for reclassifying a function house?
So Chairman, could this be the kickoff for MPO with this conversation? And then if we have any comments based upon the classifications, could we send those to Ty? Ty could compile those for the MPO.
Yeah, the individual entities, and then we could discuss them at the next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was. Because, yeah, it'd be the agency experts that would have the best knowledge on functional classification. So,
And I guess I would suggest if any of the MPO members are looking at the classification charts or designation, and the ones that are non part of transportation, if they see something like, that's kind of weird, why is that road this versus this? Maybe they could reach out to the those of us in the jurisdiction that are more likely to have information based upon that road. So if it falls in the city of Helena, maybe contact City of Helena, find out if they have a concern on the road that you identified. If it's in the county and you're like, well, this one's a major collector, but this one's, something else, but they have about the same level of traffic, maybe provide those comments to us, and then maybe we can include them if it makes sense, or maybe there's a rationale that we are okay with that for some reason. Does that make sense?
So that sounds fine with me.
So in the agenda packet, there are, MPT has provided two maps, this being one of them that shows, a GIS map, of what the roads and the classifications. For what I hear, Mr. Chair, the proposed next steps would be for, organizations with the MPO to look at, their functional classification systems, providing with feedback on suggested changes.
By what the
Can we make it by next TTAC? So the May meeting?
Yeah, how about give maybe a week or a couple days before that, so everybody gets your comments and we can
Okay.
maybe condense them into.
A week before the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then Ty, I guess, as you're talking with Jeff on this, it would be interesting to know what, if these designations, if we do have changes in comments, will that then change our maps that require, city and county commission approval of those maps? Would we then have to go back through those steps we just did about a year ago? On any changes to those maps? Because we can't provide comments, but it just might not be worth making some of those comments if it makes major changes to our folder.
Oh,
Okay. Sure, thanks.
Mr. Chair, that is all I have for today's agenda.
Do we have any member communication or discussion topics?
yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to get some clarification on, I noticed that Chair has scheduled, or is gonna schedule, TTAC meetings on a monthly basis.
So those are technical advisory committees.
Well, that's what in the plan, they indicated, overall development plan overseen by the PTAC. And they will provide, let me see. Yeah, TTAC, well, RPA will provide key milestones, on a monthly basis to keep track of the progress. Now, I'm assuming those will be fairly formal with an agenda ahead of time. So we'll know what Petra is going to present, is going to discuss.
Yes, sir.
And those might not be our meetings and their
Oh,
technical advisory committee.
All right, yeah.
So through the last round, there's an advisory committee to help with plan itself. Not this group, it might be the same group, might be a lot of the same players, but it was just to help step through the plan itself, not necessarily the MPO group. They would still give us updates on a regular basis, but I think the meetings that they're talking about them scheduling is among a more working group versus our group.
Well, they're talking about two types of meetings, the project management team meetings every other week, and then a TTAC meeting on a monthly basis.
We can get clarification from them.
I mean, that's what they have on the schedule.
Yeah.
And I think those are really important to keep track of this project.
And Mr. Chair, I think that Scott may be online, if
Yeah.
it's appropriate to ask Scott. Scott, are you online by chance?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you hear Mr. Sloan's question?
I did, yeah. I can clarify. So, as David mentioned, so the PMT, project management team, is a smaller group that would be led by Ty and I guess others to check in more frequently every other week, just to check in on management tasks, kind kind of hold informal meetings and track progress. Then we plan to meet with the TTAC, this body here, probably every other month. We said we kind of had it in our scope to meet every other month, but we try to tie those more to critical points when we have information to share, updates, deliverables, that sort of thing. So we assumed probably not every month. We can certainly provide a loose updates to tie to give to this body, but we'd probably do more of a formal presentation at key milestones when we have something to review and discuss and are looking for feedback on. So hopefully that's helpful.
That answer your question.
Yeah, it's helpful, but as much specificity as we can get on these things is really important on these kind of projects.
Yes, sir.
They can tend to drift, and then 2-3 months down the road, it's.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And definitely, I know from your experience that you had this firsthand. So absolutely, that's our goal. And I'll make sure that I may lean on you to make sure that it's on the same thing. Any other comments?
If not, motion to adjourn.
He's looking at you now.
I'll second.
Okay.
We're having so much fun.
We're just gonna say, yeah.
Maybe I'll leave.
This meeting's adjourned.
So just don't wanna go back to work. That's all.
Yeah, I would
No, I don't think so either.
play around this building.
Make sure you're not recording.
No, I am.